Thus, an organism needs relatively little support to survive in water, but it needs a fairly rigid skeleton to live and move on land. Climate in a terrestrial ecosystem is much more variable than it is in water. The most important aspects of climate are the temperature and water relations of ecosystems. These relations include mean annual temperature, amount of temperature fluctuation, annual rainfall, degree and time of fluctuation in rainfall and potential evapotranspiration. Rainfall tends to be somewhat irregular even in the most predictable terrestrial ecosystems, and in arid regions or during periods of drought, lack of water may be a source of extreme stress. The temperature is much more variable on land than in water. This is caused by the fact that aquatic ecosystems are heated by absorption of radiation by water, and water has a high specific heat. Terrestrial ecosystems, on the other hand, are heated by the absorption of heat by soil, rock, and vegetation, whose specific heat are much lower. Table 13:1. A given quantity of heat energy absorbed by solid material can change its temperature 2 to 5 times as much as the same energy absorbed by water. Thus, heat is gained and lost rapidly by terrestrial ecosystems, with the resulting wide fluctuations of temperature, both diurnally and seasonally. Table 13:1. Specific heat of several common substances. Clapham Jr. 1973. 1. Freshwater 1.00. 2. Seawater 0.93. 3. Wet mud 0.60. 4. Moist sandy clay 0.33. 5. Solid rock 0.206. Copper 0.09. In terrestrial ecosystems, the soil serves two major functions. It provides support for living organisms, and it is the source for all essential nutrients except for carbon, oxygen and hydrogen. For details see Chapter 3. Even its supportive role is different from the way in which a lake sediment supports rooted vegetation. Because the entire weight of all living organisms is borne by the soil, there is no partition of support between the soil and the air. The role of soil as a source of nutrients is unique to terrestrial environments. It is the site of the entire detritus food chain, see Chapter 3, and, thus, is central to the biogeochemical cycling of nutrient materials. Different types of soils have different properties that affect the availability of nutrients to plants, so the productivity of the terrestrial ecosystems is very closely tied to the chemistry of the soil. Further, in terrestrial biotic communities, interactions between species are real but they are simple, involving relationships such as predation, mutualism, parasitism and the like. In contrast to aquatic ecosystems, living organisms of terrestrial ecosystems leave a permanent mark on the system. For example, the role of plants in breaking down and weathering of rock and building soil is much more evident than it is in almost all aquatic ecosystems. In addition, the succession that takes place in a terrestrial community is almost entirely a function of the organisms within the ecosystem, unlike aquatic succession such as lake eutrophication, which are dependent in large part on materials being washed in from outside. Lastly, in each of these two ecosystems, namely aquatic and terrestrial ecosystems, several types of major subdivisions can be recognized. Thus, one can distinguish freshwater, estuarine and marine aquatic ecosystems, and several major types of terrestrial ecosystems such as prairies, forests, tundra, etc. The former are distinguished on the basis of a major chemical difference, i.e., salt content, the latter generally on the basis of the predominant type of vegetation, grass, tree, etc. Winking face, C. Cormondi, 1976. CIASSIFICATION of terrestrial ecosystem S. The Earth's surface, the continental land masses have been classified by biogeographers and ecologists into following regions. Biogeographic realms, biomes. Biogeographic realms or regions. Careful studies of the distribution of plants and animals over the Earth have revealed the existence of 6 major biogeographic realms, namely Palearctic realm, Nearctic realm, Neotropical realm, Ethiopian realm, Oriental realm and Australian realm, each characterized by the presence of certain unique organisms. Each of these realms embraces a major continental landmass and each remains separated by oceans, mountain ranges, or desert. Biomes. Within these biogeographic realms and established by a complex interaction of climate, other physical factors and biotic factors, are large community units called biomes. A biome is a large community unit characterized by the kinds of plants and animals present. In each biome the kind of climax vegetation is uniform, grasses, conifers, deciduous trees, but the particular species of plant may vary in different parts of the biome. The kind of climax vegetation depends upon the physical environment and the two together determine the kind of animals present. The definition of biome includes not only the actual climax community of a region, but also the several intermediate communities that precede the climax community. Further, there is usually no sharp line of demarcation between adjacent biomes. Instead each blends with the next through a fairly broad transition region termed as ecotone. There is, for example, an extensive region in northern Canada where the tundra and coniferous forests blend in the tundra-coniferous ecotone. Ecologists have identified the following biomes. 1. Tundra biome. Tundra presents the most common example of fragile ecosystem, Clapham Jr., 1973. Tundra, which means marshy plain, lies largely north of latitude 60 degrees north, i.e., between the Arctic Ocean and polar ice caps and the forests to the south, and is characterized by the absence of trees, the presence of dwarfed plants, and an upper ground surface that is wet, spongy and uneven, or hummocky, as a result of freezing and thawing of this poorly drained land. Cormondi, 1976. Some 5 million kilometers areas of tundra stretch across northern America, northern Europe and Siberia. Although there is variation from place to place within the biome, temperature, precipitation, and evaporation are characteristically low, the warmest months averaging below 10 degrees Celsius and the wettest with about 25 millimeters of precipitation. Despite the small amount of precipitation, water is usually not a limiting factor because the rate of evaporation is also very low. The ground usually remains frozen except for the uppermost 10 to 20 centimeters, which thaw during the brief summer seasons. The permanently frozen deeper soil layer is called permafrost. The permafrost line, which may exist at a depth of a few centimeters to several meters, is the ultimate limit of plant root growth, but the immediate control is the depth to which soil is thawed. In summer, the rather thin carpet of vegetation of tundra biome includes few species. Grasses and sedges. Tundra biome are characteristic of numerous marshes and poorly drained areas, but large areas consist of grasses, sedges, mosses and lichens, with occasional occurrence of dwarf birches, betula, and willows, salix. Perhaps the most characteristic Arctic tundra plant is a lichen known as reindeer moss, Cladonia. Tundra is also characterized by heath plants such as erica and other members of Ericaceae family. The net primary productivity is extremely low. The animals that have adapted to survive in the tundra are caribou or reindeer, musk ox, the Arctic hare, Arctic fox, polar bear, wolves, lemmings, snowy owls, ptarmigans, and during the summer, swarms of flies, diptera, black flies, mosquitoes, and a host of migratory birds. Tundra biomes cover large areas of the Arctic zone. There are 2 tundra biomes, one in the Palearctic and another in the Nearctic region. Tundra-like areas, called the alpine tundra, are also quite similar to some of Arctic tundra. Tundra-like areas, called the alpine tundra, are also quite similar to some of Arctic tundra, but in the absence of permafrost and in the growing season, mosses and lichens are less prominent, flowering plants more so. 2. High altitude or the alpine biome. The region of mountain above the timberline contains a distinct flora and fauna and is referred to as the alpine zone. Alpine zone remains conspicuous in those mountains whose peaks reach up to the nibble or snow zone, as in the Himalayas. The alpine zone, which lies between timberline and snow zone, includes in the descending order, a sub-snow zone immediately below the snow zone, a meadow zone in the center and ashrub zone which gradually merges into the timber zone. According to Mani 1957, snow zone of Himalayas lies over 5,100 meters above mean sea level and alpine zone exists at a height of 3,600 meters. From an ecological viewpoint, the zone above the limits of tree growth, timberline, exhibits extreme environmental conditions which greatly influence the biota of this region. The characteristic features of high-altitude environment are following: a low air density, low oxygen and carbon dioxide contents and water vapor, high ozone content, high atmospheric transparency affording greater penetration of light, cold, snow cover, increased rate of desiccation, high wind velocity, insolation of high intensity during the day and rapid radiation during the night, the high glare from the sky and snow, high intensity of ionizing radiation and the exclusion of trees. In the western Himalayas of Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and UP, and the eastern Himalayas of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh, subalpine forests dominated by trees of such species as abis, pinus, and so on, occur at altitudes of 2,900 to 3,500 meters, while alpine scrub forests are found at altitudes of 36,000 meters and more. These scrub forests contain the broad-leaved Betula utilis. Alpine zone of Himalayas is also characterized by a sparseness of animal groups, the scarcity being relatively important as far as tropical Indian, South Chinese, Indo-Chinese and Malayan derivatives are concerned. Important constituents of the fauna of this zone are cold-adapted Palearctic forms, Mani, 1968. Many invertebrates of alpine zone are predatory and occur in lakes, streams and ponds. Among vertebrates, fishes and amphibians are totally lacking and reptilian fauna is greatly impoverished. However, pelobatid frog, Ailurophryne mamata, is found to occur at 4,500 meters of height in Himalayas, and Viviparous mabuya has been reported to live at 4,000 meters of height in Mount Kilimanjaro. Some of the representative vertebrates of Himalayan alpine zone are crow, Corvus corax, snow partridge, Lurwa nivicola, snow leopard, Felis unica and Felis ynx, European leech marten, Mustela foina, the vole, lagamies, Tibetan yak, Bos grunnius, Tibetan sheep, Ovis hodgsoni, Pamir sheep, Ovis poli, ibex, Capra sibirica, markhor, Capra falconeri, and Persian wild goat, Capra aegregris. A large number of insects and arachnids remain best adapted to Himalayan alpine zone and at 6,900 meters height. The torrential streams, which are the products of melting snow, contain many mayflies, stoneflies and caddisflies. Some of common insects of this zone are stonefly Rhabdiopteryx lunata, grasshoppers such as Bryoma and Gomphomastax, Apteris species Conophyma, Dicranophyma, Sphingonotus, Teddygonid Hypsinomus fasciata, earwigs such as Anatura, bugs such as Dolmacorus, Tibetocorus, and Nisius ericae, aquatic beetle Amphizoa, carabids such as Bembidion, Carabus, Calosoma, Harpalus, Trecus, Calathus, Braididus, Broscus, and Discurius, staphylinids such as Atheta, Aleocara, Geodromachus, Oxypoda, Phyllanthus and Tachinus. Tenebrionids such as Bioramics and Chionolus, ants such as Formica piscea, bumblebees such as Lapidariobomba separantis, butterflies such as Callias, Argonus and Parnassus, the fly Deuterofluvia, columbolans such as Entomobria, Isotoma, Proostoma, Hypogastrura, Isodomerus, Tomoceras and Onychurus, and numerous simulids Blepharisaurids, Cirrhids, Anthemids tacnids and sarcophagids, Ananthang Krishnan and Viswanathan, 1976. 3. Forest biomes. The word forest is derived from Latin, foris, meaning outside, the reference being to village boundary fence, and must have included all uncultivated and uninhabited land. Today a forest is any land managed for the diverse purposes of forestry, whether covered with trees, shrubs, climbers, etc., or not. CSP Sagraya, 1967. The forest biomes include a complex assemblage of different kinds of biotic communities. Optimum conditions of temperature and ground moisture responsible for the growth of trees contribute greatly to the establishment of forest communities. In addition, 50 mm rainfall is a prerequisite for the trees. The nature of soil, wind and air currents determines the distribution, abundance or sparseness of forest vegetation. Normally ecologists recognize among forest communities such features as their evergreen nature, whether deciduous or indeciduous, as well as their shape, whether broadleaved as in temperate forests or more needle-like as in the conifers. On the basis of these features, the forest biomes of the world have been classified into following biomes: coniferous forest, tropical forest, and temperate forest. All these forest biomes are generally arranged on a gradient from north to south or from high altitude to lower altitude. I. Boreal coniferous forest. Cold. Regiothns high rainfall and strongly seasonal. J. I. Climates with long winters and fairly short summers are characterized by boreal coniferous forest, which is transcontinental. For example, adjacent to the tundra region. Either at latitude or high altitude is the northern coniferous forest, which stretches across both North America and Eurasia just south of the tundra, i.e., Canada, Sweden, Finland, Siberia and Missouri. The term taiga is applied to the northern range of coniferous forests. This is characterized by evergreen plant species such as spruce picea, glauca fir, Abies balsamea, and pine trees, Pinus resinosa, Pinus strabus, and by animals such as snowshoe hare, the lynx, the wolf, bears, red fox, porcupines, squirrels, amphibians like hyla and rana, etc. Large arboreal coniferous forest. Size is common, both in the trees, which range up to some 40 meters in height, and invertebrates, which include the giants of several groups of animals, such as moose, caribou, elk, grizzly bear, wolverine, beaver, and several large species of birds. Species diversity islow, and pure stands of trees and shrubs are common, as are outbreaks of defoliating insects of several sorts, e.g., bark beetles, sawflies, geometrid moths, etc. Understory trees are uncommon as a result of the continual low light penetration. Among common understory associates are orchids and ericaceous shrubs like the blueberry. The thyloid mosses and lichens being very rich understory vegetation. Boreal forest soils are thin podozols, and are rather poor both because the weathering of rock proceeds slowly in the cold environments, and because the litter derived from conifer needle is broken down very slowly and is not particularly rich in nutrients. These soils are acidic and mineral deficient, the result of the movement of a large amount of water through the soil, in the absence of a significant counter-upward movement of evaporation. Soluble essential nutrients such as calcium, nitrogen, and potassium are leached sometimes beyond the roots, thereby leaving no alkaline-oriented cations to encounter the organic acids of the accumulating litter. Cormondi, 1976. The productivity and community stability of a boreal coniferous forest are lower than those of any other biome. E. Temperate deciduous forest. The temperate forest biomes are characterized by a moderate climate and broad-leaved deciduous trees, which shed their leaves in fall, or bear over winter and grow new foliage in the spring. These forests are the characteristics of North America, Europe, Eastern Asia, Chile, part of Australia and Japan, with a cold winter and an annual rainfall of 75 to 150 cm and a temperature of 10 to 20 degrees C. In these biomes, the precipitation may be fairly uniform throughout the year. In India, at elevations of 9,000 feet equals 2,743.2 meters, 12,000 feet equals 3,655.6 meters. In Himalayas occur temperate vegetation including pines, fir, yew and juniper trees with an undergrowth of scrubby rhododendrons. Soils of temperate forests are podozoic and fairly deep. Trees are quite tall, about 40 to 50 m in height, and their leaves are thin and broad. The predominant genera of this biome are maple, acer, beech, fagus, oak, quercus, hickory, caria, basswood, tilia, chestnut, cassia, cottonwood, populus, sycamore, platanus, elm, ulmus, and willow, salix. In some locations, coniferous vegetation may be quite predominant, and that includes white pine, Pinus strubose, hemlock, Tsuga canadensis, and red cedar, Juniperus virginianus. There are not many epiphytes orleanus save for some species of mosses, algae, and lichens growing on tree trunks, and a few vines, notably Vitis, the grape, the understory of shrubs and herbs in the deciduous forest is typically well-developed, andrically diversified, with a considerable portion of the photosynthesis and flowering attuned to the short day of the spring season, prior to the leafing out of and consequent shading by the tree canopy. Accordingly, there are often two separate herb assemblages. One consists of spring flowers, which bloom before the trees have expanded their leaves and are gone by summer, and the other is adapted to the low light levels of the forest floor and lasts into the fall. The animals originally present in temperate forests are deer, bears, squirrels, gray foxes, bobcats, wild turkey, and woodpeckers. Other common animals of this region are invertebrates such as earthworms, snails, millipedes, coleoptera and orthoptera, and vertebrates like amphibians such as newts, salamanders, toads, and cricket frogs, reptiles such as turtles, lizards and snakes, mammals such as raccoon, opossum, pigs, mountain lion, etc., and birds like horned owl, hawks, etc. All these animals and plants show a profound seasonality. Some may even hibernate throughout the winter. The range of animal size and adaptations is wide. The largest animals include such forms as the deer and black bear. The dominant carnivores are large, including the wolf and mountain lion, although smaller carnivores such as fox and skunk are also common. Diversity of fauna is lower than in any of the rainforests, and a few species seems clearly to be dominant. Temperate deciduous forest in Rhode Island during winter, spring, summer, and fall. E. Temperate evergreen woodland, chaparral. Many parts of the world have a Mediterranean-type climate with warm, dry summers and cool, moist winters. These are commonly inhabited by low evergreen trees with small hard needles or slightly broader leaves. The most important area of tropical evergreen woodland in North America is the chaparral of the Pacific coast, the Mediterranean, Magquis, Spanish, Ensinar, and Mel scrab on Australia's south coast are the same type of community. In such a woodland, trees are essentially lacking, although shrubs may range up to 3 to 4 m in height. Species diversity is roughly intermediate between that of a temperate deciduous forest and a drier grassland. Fire is an important factor in this ecosystem, and the adaptations of the plants enable them to regenerate quickly after being burned. The characteristic animals of temperate evergreen woodland are chaparral or mule deer, brush rabbits, wood rats, chipmunks, lizards, wemtits, and brown towhees. Small-hoofed cursorial ungulates are the dominant herbivores. Saltatorial jumping animals and many fast-moving ungulates are also common in this fauna. IV. Temperate rainforests. The temperate rainforest is a colder ecosystem than any other rainforest. Such a forest has a definite seasonality, with both temperatures and rainfall varying throughout the year. Rainfall is high, but fog may be very heavy and actually more important as a source of water than rainfall. The diversity is much lower, both in plants and animals, in comparison to warmer rainforests, yet it remains still higher than other temperate forest types. The diversity is much lower, both in plants and animals, in comparison to warmer rainforests, yet it remains still higher than other temperate forest type. The dominant trees canopies are coast redwood, Sequoia sempervirens of the Pacific coast of North America, and the alpine ash, Eucalyptus regnans of Australia and Tasmania, both of which reach more than 100 meters in height. Epiphytes and lianas are common but are not abundant like those of other rainforest. The animals of temperate rainforests are similar to those of deciduous forests, but show a somewhat higher diversity. V. Tropical rainforests. Tropical rainforests occur near the equator in Central and South America, Central and Western Africa, Congo, Zambezirabert, Southeast Asia, parts of India and Malaysia, Malaya, Borneo, New Guinea, and Northwest Australia. Tropical rainforests are among the most diverse communities on Earth. Both temperature and humidity are high and constant. The annual rainfall, which exceeds 200 to 225 centimeters, is generally evenly distributed throughout the year. The flora is highly diversified. A square mile may contain 300 different species of trees, a diversity unparalleled in any other biome. The extremely dense vegetation of the tropical rainforest remains vertically stratified, with tall trees often covered with vines, creepers, lianas, epiphytic orchids, and bromeliads. Under the tall trees is a continuous evergreen carpet, the canopy layer, some 25 to 35 meters tall. The lowest layer is an understory of trees, shrubs, herbs like ferns and palms, all of which become dense where there is a break in the canopy. Nearly all plants are evergreen, and those that do lose their leaves entirely do so at irregular intervals with no apparent regard to the climatic regime. The leaves of most plants are of moderate size, leathery and dark green in color. Their roots are often shallow and have swollen bases or flying buttresses. Soils of tropical rainforests are red lodo soils, and they may be exceedingly thick. The high rate of leaching makes these soils virtually useless for agriculture purposes, but if they are left undisturbed, the extremely rapid cycling of nutrients within the litter layer, due to decomposition, can compensate for the natural poverty of the soil. It is the nature of the soil, both its potential for high leaching as well as its chemical composition, that promotes a rock-like quality when exposed to air, that largely has prevented Western-style agriculture from being applied to the tropical forests. Cormondi, 1976. A tropical rainforest. Invertebrate density and abundance are very high in tropical rainforests, but while vertebrates are diverse, they are not as abundant as in many other communities. The common invertebrates of these forests are worms, snails, millipedes, centipedes, scorpions, isopods, spiders, insects, planarians and leeches. Amount insects, heteropterans, orthopterans, blattids, mantids, phasmids, bees, termites and ants are most common. The common vertebrates of tropical rainforests are the arboreal amphibian Rhacophorus malabaricus, aquatic reptiles, chameleons, agamids, geckos, and many species of snakes, many species of birds, social birds being predominant, and a variety of mammals. Nocturnal and arboreal habits are most common in many mammals such as insectivores, leopards, jungle cats, anteaters, giant flying squirrels, monkeys and sloths. Bhutan, New Guinea and northern Queensland, where monkeys are absent, there are arboreal kangaroos, Dendrologus sp, despite the fact that the basic anatomy of the kangaroo is not particularly well suited to arboreal life. Further, in the foothills of the forest zone of peninsular India covered with dense tropical vegetation, we have the tiger Canthera tigris, the elephant Elephas maximus, sambar deer, Rusa unicolor muntjac, Muntiacus muntjac, the gaur Bibos goris, the chital or spotted deer Axis axis, and the swamp deer Rucervus dorosili as the major ground-dwelling mammals. See Ananthakrishnan and Viswanathan, 1976. B. Tropical seasonal forests. Tropical seasonal forests occur in region whose total annual rainfall is very high, but segregated into pronounced wet and dry periods. Tropical seasonal forests are found in Southeast Asia, Central and South America, Northern Australia, Western Africa and the tropical islands of the Pacific as well as India and Southeast Asia. In exceedingly wet tropical seasonal forests, commonly known as monsoon forests, the annual precipitation may be several times higher than that of the tropical rainforests. Trees may reach heights over 40 meters, but are more commonly 20 to 30 m high. Stratification is of a relatively simple type with a single understory tree layer, canopy is deciduous and understory is evergreen. Teak is often a major large tree in the best known tropical seasonal forests, those of India, Central India, and Southeast Asia. Bamboo is also an important climax shrub in these areas, although in other areas it is important only in earlier stages of the succession. B. Subtropical rainforests. In regions of fairly high rainfall but where temperature differences between winter and summer are less marked, as in Florida, USA, the broad-leaved evergreen subtropical biome is found. The vegetation includes mahogany, gumbo limbo, bays, palms, oaks, magnolias, tamarinds, all laden with epiphytes of pineapple and orchid families, ferns, vines and strangler fig Ficus aureus. This stratification is simpler, with only one understory tree horizon. All these plants tend to be evergreen, but may lose their leaves during the dry season. Animal life of subtropical forest is very similar to that of tropical rainforests. Rainforest India. In India, patches of rainforests are found in Kerala, Assam and the Gandhimardan hills of Orissa. They are of following three types. A. Moist tropical forests. They include the southern tropical wet evergreen forests found in Assam and West Bengal, the northern semi-evergreen forests of Assam and Orissa, and the southern tropical semi-evergreen forests of Andamans. B. Montane subtropical forests. They include the northern subtropical broad-leaved wet hill forests of Assam and West Bengal, the southern subtropical broad-leaved hill forests of Orissa and Kerala, and the subtropical pine forests of Up, Himachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, etc. The sheer forests of Up and HP are also example of this type of forests. C. Montane wet temperate forests. They include the forests of Kodaikanal and Udagamandalam in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, the northern wet temperate forest of the northeastern region and West Bengal, and the Himalayan moist temperate forests. 4. Tropical savanna biomes. Savannas are tropical grassland with scattered, drought-resistant trees which generally do not exceed above 10 meters in height and do not form a canopy. Thus, a savanna is an intermediate between a forest and a grassland. Savannas constitute extensive areas in eastern Africa, which support the richest diversity of grazing mammals in the world, and also occur in Australia, South America and Asia. The climate is generally characterized by a rainy May through October and dry November through April season. In the llanos of Venezuela, for example, nearly 90% of the annual rainfall of 130 centimeters falls during the rainy season. The loto-sol soils of savannas are nutrient poor owing to heavy leaching. Quite widely distributed in savannas are soils called laterite, which when dried harden to rock-like consistency, thereby precluding their use in Western-style agriculture. Cormandy, 1976. Although climate and soil are significant regulating factors in this biome, the controlling factor appears to be fire, which gives grass and certain species of trees a powerful advantage over other tree species. As a result of this latter factor, species diversity is quite low in comparison to adjacent tropical forests. In some situations, a single species of both grass and tree may be dominant over large areas. The trees of savannas are resistant to desiccation, and may be either deciduous or evergreen. Their leaves are often hard and drought-resistant. Grasses are the most conspicuous plants, and may reach heights of 1% - 2 meters. Gigantism of certain animal groups in these tropical savannas is as pronounced as it is in the boreal forest, including such giants as many antelopes, giraffes, elephants, buffalo and lions. Clapham Jr., 1973. In addition, a rich insect and fauna, especially those with strong mandibles capable of mastication, are conspicuous in this biome. Grasshoppers and termites are encountered in large numbers. A tropical savanna biome. Savannas of India. The savannas of India are dominated by grasses and sal trees, and the consumers are cattle, rodents, insects, jackals, hyenas, etc. They are classified into the following types. 1. High savanna. It occurs in the Brahmaputra Valley and constitutes open stands of low branching trees which are usually 2 to 3 meters tall, such as Syzygium saraswatium and Emblica officinalis. Its common grasses are Emperata, Saccharum spontaneum, Ophiris and Betevaria. 2. Moist sal savanna. It occurs in the Gangetic Plain and consists of open forests of sal, Sharia robusta, having tall grasses. Its common grasses are Emperata cylindrica, Thymeta arundinacea, Symbopogon nardus, Erianthus and Apluta. 3. Low alluvial savanna woodlands. It occurs in the Gangetic Plain and on riverine flats. The soil of this savanna is sandy and alluvial and contains patches of clay in depressions. The common trees of this region are Dalbergia sisu, Butea monosperma, Albizia, Adina cordifolia and Ziziphus procerum, Arundinella, Thymeta gigantea and Erianthus sp. 4. Dry savanna. This region is found in Punjab, Haryana, Bihar, Orissa and eastern Tamil Nadu. It is characterized by trees which stand far apart, singly or in small groups such as Acacia lenticularis, Emblica officinalis, Gardenia turgida, Crotalaria hirta and Pterocarpus marsupium. The common and abundant grasses of this region are Thymeta triandra, T. quadrivalves, Apluta mutica and Arundinella setosa. 5. Saline alkalina scrub savanna. It occurs throughout the Indo-Gangetic Plain. The common tree of this region are the phoenix, Silvestris, Acacia sp, Tamarix sp, Calotropis, Procera, C. giganta and Cachia indica. 5. Grassland biomes. The grassland biome is found where rainfall is about 25 to 75 centimeters per year, not Enough to support a forest, yet more than of a true desert. The seasonality of grasslands is pronounced, both with respect to rainfall, which is concentrated in the summer, and to temperature. Grasslands typically occur in the interiors of continents and include the tall grass prairies, short grass prairie or Great Plains, and arid sheep grazing on a temperate grassland of North America, as well as the short grass prairie steppes of Eurasia, southern Russia, Siberia and Asia, Puszta in Hungary, the belt of Africa and the pampas of South America, Argentina. The grassland communities are open land communities with limited moisture conditions, irregular rainfall, sharp seasonal and diurnal variations, and very high radiation. Vegetation of grassland is dominated by grasses, legumes, and composites. Since tall trees or other thick vegetations are excluded from these communities, there is a free movement of air. These winds carry the particles of sand or dust. These open habitats provide natural pasture for grazing animals, herbivore, which are excluded from predation by predators which hide in thick vegetation and prey upon them. In grasslands, the stratification is reduced essentially to a single story, but within that level, species diversity may be as high as in a deciduous forest, especially for the tall grass prairies. Only along the streams are trees to be found, but the gallery forests, within a few meters of stream bank, are characteristics of grasslands. The grasses comprising of the grassland can be divided into two basic groups: the tall grasses more than 1 meter high, which are found in moist portions of the grassland, and the short grasses less than 1 meter high, which are found in the drier regions. For example, prior to its conversion to agriculture and urban development, the tall grass prairie toward east of North America was dominated by species of bluestern andropogon, forming dense covers 122 centimeters to 183 centimeters tall. Westward, buffalo grass, bucklodactyloids, and other grasses but a few centimeters high dominated the landscape. Flowering herbs including many kinds of composites are common, but much less important than grasses. Since the precipitation, evaporation ratio is below 1 in the grassland, leaching is considerably less. The soils of the grasslands are rich, fertile prairie soils, black earths, and chernozems. Organic matter, humus, accumulates in the upper portion of the soil, rendering it dark. This upper portion remains neutral to slightly alkaline because of the continued replenishment of cations like calcium and potassium through the upward movement associated with evaporation. Typical animals of grasslands tend to be quite small, with the exception of a few very large cursorial herbivore mammals such as the bison and pronghorn in North America, the wild horse, ass, and saiga antelope of Eurasia, and zebra and antelopes of southern Africa. The large herbivores are nowhere near as diverse as they are in savanna areas. Likewise, carnivores are relatively small such as are coyotes, weasels, badgers, foxes, ferrets, owls, and rattlesnakes. Rodents such as prairie dogs, rabbits, and ground squirrels are common. Most herbivores characteristically aggregate into herds or colonies. This aggregation provides some protection against predators. The characteristic birds of grasslands are prairie chickens, meadow larks, and rodent hawks. Further, saltatorial motion is widespread, not only in mammals such as rabbits and kangaroo rats, but also in insects, such as grasshoppers and crickets. This probably has to do with increasing rate at which animal can move through or over the tall grasses, as well as making it harder for a predator to catch the animal. Visibility in the grasslands is exceedingly good, and the premium placed on efficiency including predators is very high. The common insects of steppes are termites, locusts, Locusta migratoria, Schistocerca gregaria, and Melanopus sp. Bees, burrowing wasps, mutilid wasps, bumblebees, and blister bees. The steppes also harbor an undisturbed reptilian fauna. Lizards and snakes are met with in large numbers and possess remarkable diversity. Most of them are fossorial, insectivorous, and carnivorous. Types of grasslands. Grasslands tend to occupy about 20% of the Earth's land surface and are of three types. I. Tropical grasslands. These are situated 20 degrees away from the equator, and the rainfall varies from 40 to 100 centimeters. Tall grasses rise to a height of about 1.5 to 3.5 meters. The tropical grasslands of Africa include ungulates, deer, antelopes, giraffes, lions, etc. I. Temperate grasslands. They are found in Europe, Asia, and North America. Their rainfall varies from 25 to 75 centimeters per year. E. Alpine grasslands. They occur at higher latitudes. They are of the meadow type, and many flowering herbs also grow here. 6. Desert biomes. Deserts are the biomes formed in the driest of environments. Temperature may range from very hot as in hot deserts to very cold as in cold deserts. Major hot deserts of the world are situated near the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, with a rainfall of less than 10 millimeters. The most important hot deserts. A. Cold desert. B. A. Hot desert. Of world ice, Sahara Arabia Gobi Desert complex extending from Africa to Central Asia and contains highly irregular and very insignificant rainfall, and low humidity due to excessive evaporation. Fairly extensive hot deserts also occur in India, Sindh Rajasthan deserts, South America, Chile, North America, and Australia. The cold deserts occur at high elevations where the temperatures are low and rainfall scanty as the air loses all its moisture content as it ascends higher and higher. Cold deserts occur in Ladakh regions of Himalayas, Tibet, and Bolivia Arctic. The hot and cold deserts may also be distinguished by differences in plant population which are mostly succulent type, e.g., cactus, palo verde trees, creosote bush, etc. Most cold deserts have sagebrush. Low abnormal precipitation coupled with soil and air temperatures that are extremely high by day and drop abruptly by night, low humidity, and high insolation are the major desiccating environmental factors to which desert vegetation and animals have adapted. Desert plants which tend to be shrubs are adapted to drought conditions through reduced leaf size and the dropping of leaves in dry conditions, both reducing water loss via evapotranspiration. The roots of most desert plants remain well developed and occur in the top meter of the soil to take maximum possible advantage of any rainfall. Further, the root hairs on many desert plants are ephemeral, drying back under drought conditions and thereby reducing potential water loss by osmosis. Yet other species are short-lived annuals that complete their life cycles during the short moist period. In most hot deserts, there occur plants such as cacti, water-string succulents such as acacias, euphorbias, cacti, prickly pears, etc., which are adapted by their protoplasmic colloids, which enable the accumulation of substantial water reserves, as well as by a reduced leaf surface, which obviates water loss via evapotranspiration. The animals present in the desert are reptiles, insects, and burrowing rodents. All these animals possess special morphological, physiological, and ethological adaptations for deserts. In general, large animals are very uncommon except mule deer and some species of gazelle, and all animals have cursorial, fossorial, and/or saltatorial adaptations. Some desert animals are nicely adapted for high extremes of temperature. For example, the lethal temperature of different species of insects found to be following: for th recanal spider Galeodes grantiitis 50 degrees Celsius, for the Gryllus domesticus it is 40 degrees Celsius, and for the forficulid Labrador riparia it is 38 degrees Celsius. Cloudsley Thompson, 1962. Diurnal rhythms are perhaps the best method of avoiding the heat. While some desert plants close their petals at night, many blossom only at night. Some insects such as Tenebrionid betel aki spinosa remain active during the day, and the centipede Scolopendra clavites restricts its activities to nighttime. Further, certain reptiles and certain insects are well adapted for survival in deserts because of their thick, impervious integuments and the fact they excrete dry waste matter. A few species of mammals have become secondarily adapted to the desert by excreting very concentrated urine. They avoid the sun by remaining in their burrows during the day. Kangaroo rat and pocket mouse, both are able to live without drinking water by extracting the moisture from the seeds and succulent cactus they eat. The camel and the desert birds, ostrich, etc., must have an occasional drink of water but can go for long periods of time using the water stored body. Most insects of deserts are herbivores, and as a correlation the number of small insectivorous lizards found in the desert is usually high. Fauna of Indian deserts. Prakash 1974 Haig recognized 4 habitat types in the Indian desert based on landforms, namely aquatic, sandy, rocky and ruderal habitats. The aquatic habitats of Indian deserts, which remain confined to the perennial lakes, are inhabited by various species of fishes such as Labionigripinus, Oxygaster clupoides, Torquerdi, Puntius amphibia, Nomachilus denisoni. Among amphibians of the Indian desert are a species of toad, Bufo andersoni, and 5 species of frogs, Indian bullfrog Rana tigrina, cricket frog Rana limnacaris, and burrowing frog Rana breviceps being dominant species. Among reptiles, there occur 2 species of Testudinis loricata, 18 species of lizards, and 18 species of snakes. Of the lizards, some species such as Acanthodactylus cantorus, Calops versicolor, Euromastix hardwicki, Ophiomorus tridactylus are predatory on the desert locust, inhabiting localized areas in the Thar Desert. The avian fauna of the Indian desert includes species such as painted partridge Francolinus pictus pallidus, gray partridge Francolinus pondicerianus, common quail Coturnix coturnix, black-breasted quail Coturnix coromandelicus, rock-bush quail, the little bustard quail Lernix sylvatica, button quail Turnix tanki, great Indian bustard Choriotes nigriceps, Florican Siphiatides indica, sandgrouses such as Petricles existis or langeri, Petricles alchata, P. senegalis, and P. indicus indicus. During winter numerous aquatic birds become abundant in Indian deserts. Such birds are white-fronted goose Anser albifrons, Widgeon Anis penelope, Gargani Anis curgadrila, red-crested Pichard netafufina, and tufted duck Athia fudigola. Among the predominant predatory birds are 2 species of the vultures, namely Gypes bengalensis and the white vulture Neophrinpercnopterus. The mammalian fauna of Indian deserts includes many species, some of which have been tabulated in Table 13-2. All these mammals have well-specialized adaptations for survival in thermal extremes and low humidity. Many of them possess diurnal rhythmic activities. 7. Wetland biomes. Wetlands may be defined as submerged or water-saturated lands, natural and artificial, permanent or temporary with water that is static or flowing and fresh, brackish or saltish. They are scaly anteater, Asiatic jackal, red fox, characteristic transitional conditions between terrestrial land and deep water bodies and are represented by swamps, marshes, or palustrine lands, fens, i.e., tract of marshy land, peatlands, lagoons, i.e., a shallow lake, especially one near and communicating with the sea or river, lakes, etc. Wetlands are also represented by paddy fields, fishery ponds, trappa cultivation ponds, riverine floodplains, lacustrine L lacus equals a lake, marshy lands, marine backwaters and coastal wetlands. Wetlands are often seasonal, i.e., with free overlying water in the rainy season, marshy and often almost dry in summer. Wetlands support specialized vegetation and fauna. They are suitable niche for fish and other aquatic fauna, as breeding and nursery ground for waterfowls and as filters for sediments and pollutants. Floodplains and marshes are sometimes not easily accessible and, hence, serve as a secure place for many kinds of wildlife. Sundarbans is one such habitat in the coastal belt of the Bay of Bengal. Since wetlands contain superoptimal water, they are quite productive. In tropics, e.g., India, because of associated bright sunshine and warm condition, their primary productivity becomes very high. Rice, which is the major crop of India, is best grown in wetlands. Biomass of wetlands is well distributed between the above ground foliage and underground rhizomatous and cormous parts. Typha and phragmites have very high production efficiency. Uriale ferox, a prized dry fruit crop, is most extensively grown in wetlands of North Bihar. Wetlands are fast disappearing in many parts of world because of dumping of wastes and reclamation for agriculture, housing, forestation, etc. Bromides and chlorides.